Have you ever met someone who looked like they had nothing, but ended up changing everything? Stay till the end, because what this janitor did for an angry old woman will make you believe in kindness again. And if you feel something deep inside your heart by the end, don't forget to like this video and subscribe, because stories like this remind us that goodness still exists in this world. It was early morning when Arthur, the janitor, entered the old apartment building where he worked for nearly 15 years. His hands were rough, his back slightly bent, and his eyes tired, but there was something gentle about the way he carried himself. Every morning, before the tenants even woke up, he swept the hallways, mopped the floors, and made sure everything smelled fresh. It was his routine, his peace, his quiet world. But peace didn't last long after she moved in. Mrs. Eleanor Green, an elderly woman in her late 70s, with snow-white hair, sharp eyes, and a cane that seemed to announce her presence before she even spoke. From the very first day, she complained about everything. The floor was slippery. The lights were too bright. The water was too cold. And when she yelled, her voice carried through the entire building. Arthur never talked back. He would just nod politely and say, "I'm sorry, ma'am. I'll fix it right away." Sometimes he even redid tasks he had already finished, just so she would calm down. Everyone told him to ignore her, "She's just a bitter old woman," they said. But Arthur didn't believe that. He'd seen too much pain in his life to judge people so quickly. You see, Arthur wasn't just a janitor by choice. Years ago, he was a carpenter, with his own small workshop. He had a wife and a daughter, until an accident took them both away. After that day, he lost everything: his home, his business, and his will to dream. The only thing that kept him alive was work, and the silent promise he made to his late wife, to never stop helping others, no matter how broken he felt inside. So when Eleanor yelled, Arthur didn't hear anger, he heard pain. When she threw insults, he saw loneliness. And when she slammed her door, he noticed the tears in her eyes just before it closed. Every morning, he brought her groceries. Every evening, he checked if she needed medicine. Sometimes she'd curse at him, sometimes she'd cry, but Arthur always came back the next day, quietly fixing her leaky faucet or replacing a bulb without saying a word. Weeks turned into months. And slowly, something changed. One morning, Eleanor opened her door before Arthur could knock. She handed him a cup of tea, without saying a word. He accepted it with a smile, and for the first time, she didn't look away. From then on, their mornings became quieter, softer. They didn't need to talk much, their silence said enough. But one winter afternoon, everything changed. Arthur was sweeping near her apartment when he heard a loud thud. He rushed inside and found Eleanor collapsed on the floor, her cane lying beside her. Without hesitation, he called for help, held her hand, and stayed with her until the ambulance arrived. She kept whispering something, barely audible: "Don't leave the key." For weeks after that, her apartment stayed empty. Arthur continued his work, but the halls felt colder. Then one morning, a young woman walked in, tall, elegant, wearing a black suit and carrying a briefcase. She looked around with a distant expression, then stopped when she saw Arthur. "You're the janitor here?" she asked. "Yes, ma'am," Arthur replied politely. "How can I help you?" The woman looked down for a moment before saying softly, "You already have. I'm Eleanor Green's daughter, and I own this building now." Arthur froze. He'd heard rumors that the building was family-owned, but never imagined this woman was her daughter. "She'd passed away last week," the woman continued, her voice trembling slightly. "I came to take care of her belongings." Arthur's heart sank. He didn't know what to say. He simply lowered his cap and murmured, "I'm so sorry." The woman nodded. "I wanted to thank you," she said after a pause. "My mother left a letter for you." She reached into her bag and handed him an envelope. His name was written in shaky handwriting. Arthur opened it carefully. Inside was a short note. "Greater than, Arthur. You were the only one who saw me, not as a burden, not as a tenant, but as a human being. I yelled because I was afraid. I pushed everyone away because I didn't want anyone to see how lonely I'd become. But you stayed. You reminded me of kindness, of patience, of love. I'm leaving my apartment to you. I hope it gives you a home again. Thank you for being the light in my last days. Eleanor." Arthur's hands trembled as he finished reading. For the first time in years, tears fell down his cheeks. The daughter stood beside him, silent, watching the man who had given her mother something she never could, peace. Later that week, as Arthur cleaned the hallways one last time, the new building owner approached him again. "I want you to stay," she said quietly. "Not as a janitor. As the building's supervisor. My mother trusted you, and so will I." Arthur looked around, at the place he had spent half his life in, the walls he had scrubbed, the doors he had painted, the people he had quietly helped. And then he looked at the apartment that once belonged to Eleanor. He smiled. Sometimes, the smallest acts of kindness change not only a person's day, but their entire life. So if you're watching this, remember, the world doesn't need more perfect people. It needs more Arthurs, people who care, even when no one notices. If this story touched your heart, hit the like button and subscribe, because somewhere out there, someone like Arthur is still sweeping floors with a heart full of love. And maybe, one day, their story will inspire the world too.